Well, viewers, it's time to start off on another GPWS series, and we've just hit the milestone of 300 subscribers. Thank you all very much for that. I never thought I'd actually make it. It's because of this and a very special anniversary that just happened on the channel that you're in for a very special series. Anyway, let's get into it. But first, a word from our non-paid sponsor on Commercial Carousel. Hello again, guys. It's Gregola Productions here, and I'm back again with a very special GPWS series. Now, I've got multiple reasons for making this, but I think the first and foremost reason is because a guy I know in the Gregola Horology Club, he needs my help. So here's a series for him. This guy I know in the GHC, he recently bought a Westclox Baby Ben Style 6, a Luminous one like that white one over there, the white and brown one. His is all black, but it's still got the Luminous hands and Luminous numbers. It's the same exact clock, just different paint scheme. So here I am with a series for him and whoever else wants to work on a Style 6 Baby Ben. There's also another reason I'm doing this series, is because, well, you get to look at my Luminous alarm clock display cabinet I've got here in my garage. I'm going to get into, in another video, I will talk more about why I store all my Luminous clocks in the garage. The ones that haven't been serviced anyway. They all live in the garage right now. I'll get into that another time, but someone also requested, I believe JS Clocks is his name. I think he's a fairly new horology YouTuber. Welcome to the I don't know what you'd call it, the club, not the Gregola Horology Club. He's not in there yet. I hope he comes, but anyway, welcome to the horology scene here on YouTube. And the reason I haven't done a full clock collection video, which I'm kind of tempted to do now, especially since he's requested it, is because I don't want to look like I've ripped off Clock TV, which a lot of people like to use his style. Not pointing out any names here, but yeah, a lot of people like to use the old Clock TV format, so Greg sees that and he goes the opposite direction. The third and final reason why I'm picking out the Style 6 Baby Ben and being in the garage to begin with is because a very monumental event has just happened. The Gregola, well, not Gregola Productions itself, but this channel that I'm releasing videos on here now, it has just turned 5 years old. And once again, that's not the Gregola brand name, I guess you could call it. That's not the GPWS. That's just the channel. And yes, I was making videos in 2016, all the way up to now, but all my content that predates 2019 is pretty crap, so don't go looking for it. The significant thing about that Style 6 Baby Ben is the fact that it is the very first Westclox alarm clock. Actually, it's the very first. Well, I've had a few other alarm clocks and stuff before this, but that Style 6 Baby Ben was the very first clock that I got when I became serious about collecting Westclox, and I don't know if I really go for other brands right now, but anyway, I'm kind of shooting for Westclox, as you can see, hence the name of the series. Anyway, that was the first one that I ever got in my clock collecting, serious clock collecting years here. I think it was April of 2017 that I got it at an antique store, and I soon realized that it would only run for a few minutes, and it didn't want to, it wouldn't run for very long. And I ended up falling into the same trap that everyone, there's a lot of people that still think this, that you can just oil up a clock movement, aka buy a bottle of Liberty oil off Amazon, dismantle the case of the clock, and then oil up the pivots with Liberty oil without any sort of cleaning done whatsoever. And a lot of people I know do this. Guys, you're not supposed to do this. When you do that, the old oil and the new oil being the oil you just put on, doesn't mix with the old oil. And it turns into an abrasive paste which will elongate the bushings on your clock. It will elongate the bushing holes, and it'll make the gears go out of alignment, and then the clock won't run. So, suddenly, all you had to do at first was dismantle the movement, clean it up, put it back together, and re-oil it. But now, you have to completely dismantle the movement, clean it up, rebush a whole bunch of pivots, because it's 5, 6, 7 years later, and your oiling job that you did has done more harm than good to your clocks. And no one understands this. A lot of people in the community, not going to call out any names, but a lot of people just do it like that. That term, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, doesn't apply to clock repair. These machines need maintenance. You can't just dab more oil on something that hasn't been, it's all disgusting, it's full of dirt and dust, and the old oil has turned to grease, and you just dab some more oil on it, and you go, oh, well, it runs. That's not good enough. That will wreck the movement in the long run. So it's smarter to just fully disassemble everything and not have to deal with it after. So let's say it one more time. Dabbing oil on the pivots will wreck the movement in the long run. Learn how to disassemble your movements yourself so you can actually discover how much of a fun hobby this actually is. Like clock repairing, not collecting, repairing these things. And I wasn't that technical of a guy before I was actually repairing these movements. I didn't really, I bought clocks and I thought, oh, you oil them up, let them go. They run, right? It quote unquote works. I thought the collecting would be the fun part. It's actually repairing a lot of the time. It's probably not for everybody, but it's for me. Anyway, somebody in 2018 basically told me that I remember someone was having issues with servicing a movement online. I think it was a YouTube comment section. Someone made a video and they didn't know how to service the movement or something on some clock somewhere, and I said, well, yeah, I just oil it up quick and go. And then some guy comes and says, well, yeah, your method will do A, B, and C. So, I don't play that game anymore. Anywho, this is my very first Westclox when I started seriously collecting. My absolute, very, very first one was a Style 9 Big Ben from my grandma when the spring broke. I think the spring broke after a week of owning it. And then I hucked it out, and I did look inside the movement though. I did kind of look at it and not really process what I was looking at. It was all plastic, but anyway, this is my first good Westclox right here. Nice Style 6 Baby Ben from the 1950s. So before we pop this clock open, I think a history lesson is due. Throughout this, you're going to hear me refer to the different clocks in styles, the different models of clocks referred to as different styles. Greg, why do you do that? Well, in the 1980s at some point, either it was Bill Stoddard or someone who knows him or somebody in the know who came up with that whole style identification system. All the different clocks in the Westclox catalog have some form of model number, and they'll also usually have a name. The names are great, but the problem with the names is you can't identify a previous version of the same clock that has the same name. Like you can't refer to the Westclox Oracle. I can't refer to I'm trying to talk about an Oracle maybe from the 1970s or something, but everyone thinks I'm talking about the first Oracle from the 1930s. You know what I mean? So some sort of style identification. You need some sort of system to identify right off the bat what one you're talking about. Well, Greg, just use all the different model numbers. Well, the problem is when there's 20 different clocks you're trying to refer to, and they're all numbered 72RA or V212 or some ridiculous thing like that only the factory would make any sense out of. You need some sort of good numbering system that works. So they decided to go in chronological order. The first Big Ben was called the Style 1. Then the second Big Ben, well, it was the second version of the first Big Ben, but it was 1A. Then the Big Ben was redesigned, so it was known as the Style 2, then 3, then 4, and there were a few A's in there, like Style 1A or whatever. But those are kind of few and far between. Overall, it's Styles 1 to 10. And of course, the Styles 1 to 10, that applies for the Baby Ben as well, considering it's just a miniaturized version of the Big Ben. But, that continues through all the different styles of Westclox, all the travel alarms or all the Logans or whatever, all the electric clocks, wind up, whatever it is. They all have their different styles, so it's always Styles 1 through something. So anyway, enough staring at this black screen, let's get into it. Also noting that all these images you're about to see are either sourced from clockhistory.com or some other online source that will be listed in the description. The year is 1949, and it's time for everyone to sit back, relax, and finally let off the war mentality. During this time of change and new beginnings, Westclox decided it was time to redesign what would be later known as the Style 5 Big and Baby Ben. No, it wasn't a personal grudge against the movements that drove these clocks. After all, the Big Ben loud alarm movement and the Baby Ben movement had been used in every single other Big and Baby Ben that predated the Style 5. And as for the Big Ben chime alarm movement, well, that had been in use since 1931. Nah, Westclox was just probably more sick of the case design than anything else. After all, they had had it since 1938, and really, at this point in the company's history, they were changing clock styles every 7 or so years anyway. So in late September of 1949, we see the emergence of a new Big and Baby Ben. These would be known as the Style 6. With a new streamlined design, believe it or not. Apparently the Style 5s weren't streamlined enough. Or maybe I shouldn't give them too much of a hard time because they do look really good. But at the end of the day, you have basically the same exact movements that were available before, put in a circular clock case, and then they're just, it's a vertical circle on a base. Granted, these ones are slanted up ever so slightly, unlike the 5s, but I don't know, what do you think? Do you like the 5 better or the 6? Despite whether the general public liked these clocks or not, here's what Westclox's advertising department has to say about the Style 6s. To see these new, beautiful, streamlined clocks is to agree that here is the in the quote-unquote, the handsomest Big Ben design yet. Gracefully modern in every line, years ahead from every angle. Okay, I don't know about that. I mean, they replaced this clock in 1956 with something else, so it's definitely not years ahead. As I said, it looks like the 5, except done a little bit differently. They have the same reliable movements that have made them the world's most famous alarm clocks. Okay, the undisputed, the movements are great all the way around. Well, I mean, there's some minor annoyances like pressed-on knobs that are really tight and things like that, but we'll show you how to work around those on future series. I think it needs to be addressed in in this little ramble I'm about to go on, and I'll try and cram as many facts into this as possible. But here, we'll start it off with this. When you go to an antique store, chances are you probably won't find the Style 6 Big Ben. I never do. I found only one. So what does that tell you? I find the Baby Bens every now and then, but compared to the Style 5 or the Style 7 or literally anything else, these do not come up as often as the older and sometimes younger styles do. Why is that? Well, I don't think they sold as well. Now here, if we go back in the company's history, we can kind of discover what's going on. The Style 1 is a great seller because it's got a whole bunch of new features and stuff, and it's a great timepiece. The Style 2 sells well because it's the updated version of the Style 1, but it's got a new quote-unquote modern for the 1920s kind of look. Then the Style 3 is the modernized version of the Style 2, and plus there's a new mechanical feature here now. It's the Big Ben chime alarm, as you can see in this ad here. So the Style 1, 2, and 3 all add new things to the table. What Westclox fails to understand in the mid-1930s is that a case update isn't everything, especially a minor one like this. I mean, they only changed the base a little bit. I think they gave it sort of a, I don't know what you'd call that at the bottom there. If you compare the style 3 and 4, you can see the difference. But it's not that drastic. It's basically the same thing, even way more so than the style 4, or I'm sorry, the style 5 and 6. So, it's, what's the difference? And you never see style, I've never seen a style 4 in person. I've never seen a style 2 or 3, well, I have a 3, but I haven't seen a 2 in person. That's just because it's hard to find. But anyway, that's not the point. The point is, this is basically a pointless update. I mean, they slightly made it more modern, because now, it's not like 1931 anymore, it's 1936 or something. So, it's an update to kind of make it more streamlined, but it doesn't add anything. It's not that, it's basically the same clock, again, just with a small little update. And then the Style 5 comes around, and it was a sales sensation because the design was totally different. It was new and it was streamlined looking for 1938. They didn't even need to change the color schemes or anything like that, or even introduce a whole bunch of new dials. No, they carried a lot of the dials over from the Style 4 and just used them on the 5, and obviously the movements are the same, so it was just the case that sold the clock, pretty much. Further proof of that is the designer Henry Dreyfuss. This is one of his most famous designs for some reason. Gee, I wonder why, huh? Maybe it couldn't have anything to do with the sales of this clock, no. And there was also a more serious problem. I don't know if it was Henry Dreyfuss or Westclox haste or whose haste it was, but they ended up designing a clock that would become dated very quickly. Sure, it wasn't really dated when it came out, but into the 1950s, like 1952, 53, 54, and 55, mid-century was coming on hot and fast, and streamlining was out. Also, you're looking at a nice Saturday Evening Post ad right here. This is where Westclox would do most of their advertising. That, if you look to the right there, there's that 60 million big and baby Bens have been sold throughout the world. Yeah, that's in total. That's not the Style 6 alone. That's everything since 1907. And of course, in 1956, the Style 7 Big Ben would come around, and it wasn't designed by Henry Dreyfuss, and it was a totally different Big Ben for the most part. The Baby Ben was sort of similar to the 6, but this is all a subject for a series on a Style 7, so... Anyways, viewers, I hope you enjoyed the little history lesson here. This is all the information that I deemed worthy of presenting. And of course, what kind of hypocrite would I be if I didn't at least show off the ad that features the Baby Ben we're going to be servicing in this particular series. This is from the Saturday Evening Post. This is from August 20th of 1955. So the Style 6's production during this time was almost done. So I've rambled on long enough. Let's dismantle this clock, shall we? So the first thing we do is turn our keys backwards there. And put those in a safe place. Take the other key. And by the way, this clock does run. Like, after I oiled it, it ran, and then I haven't really run it since 2018, I believe. Which is when I found out, oh shoot, it's not good to run these movements if you haven't serviced them. And I know you can see me in the reflection of the glass there. I'm going to put on one of these 3M dust masks simply because this has the Luminous paint on the hands. And as you can see, the minute hand's not looking so good. And you can see I've been in here with a screwdriver before. Yes, I did take the dial off once. And chipped up all the paint there. I might go in there with a brown Sharpie and possibly touch that up at some point. Actually, I've got a parts one over here. The parts Baby Ben. Same exact color scheme and everything. Might even replace the minute hand on that one. This one's parts because, here, we'll do the alarms here quick. We want, I haven't got the key. Here, we'll wind this up here. We'll wind that up. Oh, it's already somewhat wound. Okay. We'll wind that up quick. We'll trip the alarm, and we'll do it on loud here. Oh, that's real swell. Yeah, something's wrong with this the case on this one. Yeah, as you can see, the bell's kind of flopping around. We're gonna try and fix that. I don't know if it's the same on this one here. I think this one sounds better, actually. Let me just try this. Hold on, let's try this. This one has kind of a nicer tone to it than this other one here. This one I got way later down the line. This has no sentimental value to me. This one here, unlike this one. Let's see here. That one has a really, I don't know what happens to these clocks where the tone gets all weird. I'll have to ask that guy and ask him what his sounds like. That's horrible. That's terrible. Oh my gosh. I'll try this one. This one sounds nicer. You know. I'm not sure what happened to these poor clocks, but anyway. This you'll probably be seeing around during the series. I might be grabbing parts off this and actually giving them to a parts style 5 baby bin that I might be working on here at the same time. Don't worry, we'll do a series on a style 5 at some point, but this isn't it. That alarm hand there, that black, that's the wrong hand. It's supposed to be white. These, yeah, so someone has replaced that somewhere down the line, probably a jeweler. So that just, that shows that these have been serviced. Anyway, or that one has anyway, not this one. Anyway, masks on. You know, it's hard to say with these, because it depends how loose the paint is and whatnot. And I'm gonna wear gloves here as well in a minute, but not quite yet. And the base, unlike some of the other clocks, it's riveted on. Oh yeah, and the felt feet, there's 2 of them here. Is that mold? Was that red originally and that's just disgusting mold? I don't know. I think these were red at one time. Let's just check the other one. This one's worn off, so I don't know. And that had a model number on there. Yeah, by the way, the whole style thing that I go on about all the time, yeah, that is something made up by collectors in the 1980s. These clocks were not referred to as the style 5, 6, whatever, when they were new. That was just, oh, I was missing a screw there. Okay, so anyway. Yeah, no, that's a collector's thing. I'm pretty sure Bill Stoddard came up with that. But, anyway. Yeah, the model numbers are not memorable at all. Like, this clock might be the 61V or something. It's just a case of, just what was released, you know, one was released after the other. That's kind of the terminology, numbers-wise. Okay. We got our case apart. Oh, shoot, that's not how I wanted that to happen. There's our glass lens. Simply because radium dust may get on my gloves or something like that. That's why I wear gloves, right? You wear them so you don't get any of this stuff on your hands. Just look at that radium paint there. If you took a flashlight to that, it would glow in the dark for maybe, oh, I don't know, 30 seconds, if that. Probably less. We'll take our bit of and yeah, now we're removing the hands, viewers. That's what we're gonna be doing. I'd like to deal with these this stuff as soon as possible, and not have to deal with this later. Okay. There we go. Take a piece of cardboard. This is so the dial doesn't get damaged. Take a piece of plastic wrap, or whatever you want to call this stuff. I'm gonna put that glass over there somewhere so it doesn't get hurt, get broken somehow. And these should be fairly loose from the last time I did this, but we'll see. Take a couple of screwdrivers and press it up like that. Kind of just get them under there. I gotta get it under the actual, I don't know, you don't want to be prying, you don't want to have your screwdriver over the dial like that because you may scratch it somehow. Let's see here. I want to get it from an angle like that. That's how I want to go. Oh shoot. How is this on here? This must be fairly tight. So there's our collet there. Prying under in here. That's where you gotta be going, right there. I'm gonna grab another screwdriver. Oh, that might be too small. I know I'm not being the most coherent right now, viewers. Yeah, these dials, the hands and stuff, they can be sometimes really hard to get off. I thought these would be loose, but no. That's good. That's good for the series, because then you can see how it's done. And it's almost like it's the first time being serviced, right? Well, I guess it is. But I took the hands and stuff off last time, so I don't know why they'd be so hard. Oh shoot. Yeah, you don't want to be bending that. The hands there. You could also invest in some hand removers. That might be the smart way to go. And there's a little flake of radiant paint right there. It just kind of started to fall off. And the alarm's going. Might be using the wrong size of screwdrivers here for this job. Oh, dang, that's hard to get off. Okay, I'm not gonna be. Let's be a little. Let's think a little better here instead of being an idiot about this. The last thing I want to do is wreck this clock. Okay. And as you saw there, I bent that up a little bit. I'm just gonna press that down. So as you can see, there's our collet. Oh, you can't see it. Can you see it now? Maybe you can better there. You can see the collet under the saran wrap there. Oh shoot. To actually get in there and pry it up. Shoot. How can I get to this thing? Okay, let's try and get it in here. Let's try and take a pair of big screwdrivers and see what we can do here. Oh, no, that's not what you want. That's also not what you want. Problem with these is the fact that the control, oh, there's a key in there. That'll really do it. I forgot to take the key back out, viewers. That'll really, oh boy, that'll really, that's why this is so hard, probably, because I forgot the key in there. Okay. Let's try this again. Shoot. Let's try this again. This plastic wrap here, this is so the hands don't go flying when they come off, right? That's the whole idea. Seems I can't get my screwdriver in there quite right. Oh, there it is. Hey, there it is. So I had to really I had to feel around with my screwdriver and see kind of where is the collet at. Uh-oh, was that a scratch on the hour hand? Is that a scratch right there? Looks like it. I might have dug my screwdriver a bit into the hour hand. That's not the end of the world. You know what? I should invest in some hand removers. I think this method, it works, but it's a little risky, and then we should just be able to pull this off. You know what? I made too many assumptions in this series, viewers. I'm always wrong. I'm gonna stop making those. Oh yikes! Oh yikes! Paint's flaking off. Okay. I should open a container so that can fall into something. This is not stuff you want around your house. This is why I do this stuff in the garage, right? You know, so it doesn't. You don't inhale any of this stuff, or your pets don't eat any of it somehow. Little let that fall in there, and just gently close that back up. Yeah, this is not stuff you want in your home or around you, really, like exposed like that. Not, you know, behind glass is a little different. And I think we've actually chipped off the. Yeah, we have. Would you look at that, viewers? These hands under the paint are actually just painted white. Who would have guessed? I wouldn't have. Huh. Was that what's going on over here? Is the paint chipping off? Yeah, it is. That's very interesting. I'll have to remember that. Okay, so let's get our hand off. As you can see, the bells just flip-flop around. This thing isn't really on quite right, I don't think. Get this on again. Let's see here. Look at this. Yes, that is very interesting that these are just painted white underneath the radium paint there. That is very interesting. Yours, I mean, this one's really flaking off. Not because of the way I'm doing it, more so just because it's just old and it's just flaking. Some of them won't flake like that. So this one is. Actually, you know what? I'm not going to take this hand off of this dial here. I learned a lesson in my previous series that I did on a, well, not the last series I released, but I did a series on a Style 5 Baby Ben. The hour hand was not meant to come off from it wasn't meant to come off the hour pipe. So it would come off with the dial. I'll show you that in a minute here. But the hour pipe that the hour hand is attached to, that just comes off with the dial. This might be a pressed on assembly here, and if you take that off, it'll be a massive pain in the neck to get that back on. So I'm gonna leave that hand alone. It's not the end of the world that we, left it on. I'm trying to get that paint. You can see a little bit of paint there, just sitting there. I don't like that. I'll try and get that off. This is very entertaining, viewers, isn't it? This is pretty expensive here. I'm trying to scrape that off. Are those scratch marks or are those like actual paint just sitting there? I don't know what those are. This dial's a little banged up here anyway. I'm not really. Okay, I'm gonna assume that that's just a scratch. I thought those were paint flakes sitting there. That's what I thought that was all about. Maybe they are. I don't know. Maybe they're smeared onto the dial somehow. Okay, now we got our little alarm hand. So as I went along here, you'd think it would just be taking a pair of screwdrivers or a hand remover and just casually removing the alarm hand like on basically every single other clock that I've done up to this point. Well, no, it's more complicated than that. And as I was going along, I was realizing how you can actually wreck this thing if you're not careful. So of course, when I come to the realization that I need to do things in a different way or try experimenting different ways to make it happen, usually the videos become that adds an extra 20 minutes onto the video and it's very convoluted and you have a very, very vague idea as to what's going on. So I've drawn up some diagrams and I'm cutting all the other stuff out. So I attempted to get at this alarm hand with a watch case opener, screwdrivers. I tried everything, but we ended up just going a different route. You can also see me try and get under the dial or under the cardboard. Yeah, that didn't work. Viewers, I thought the best way to show off what exactly was going on was to draw up some diagrams. So I know it looks like a 3-year-old drew these up, but that's okay. The scales and the colors are not accurate. But, they all have to have different colors because they're all different pieces, right? So things with the same colors are the same pieces. So I hope this makes some degree of sense here. Anyway, to the far left, we have the alarm hand with no collet in it. Simple enough. It's just a hole there. Then the next object over there, we have the alarm hand collet, the top view of that. So you can only see the base of it and the cover there. Then the next little diagram over has the actual collet itself. That's what the collet looks like from the side view. That is the entire collet right there. So you can see the big green pole there, the collet pole, and then on that there's that hand base which is that orange part, and then the top of it is the red part. And then if you look over to the right now, we've got the whole alarm. I believe it's the alarm shaft in its entirety. We've got the alarm finger there, which is that weird blue looking oval. We got that brown part, that's the finger, the pole base, and then we've got the alarm hand pole. So that whole thing there, that's just one piece. That does not come apart at all. Our main focus is the actual collet itself. So here's a nice view of the side of the collet there, and as you can see, the alarm hand just mounts in the middle of that. Now, I haven't read any sort of documents or seen any, for that matter, that show how these hands were put together, and I don't think any exist, at least none that I know of. So we're going to make a bit of an assumption here. So these collets originally, they wouldn't have the red part being flat like it is. It'd be bent up. And what would happen is the alarm hand itself, after it's been painted or blue steel, well, some of them are blue steel, After it's been painted or blued, it would be taken over there, and it would be put over top of the red part, and it would land on the base there, and the red part would be or the whole thing would be taken over to some pressing machine or something like that, and it would flatten that red piece, which then tightens the metal. And I don't know what the term is for that, but anyway, it makes for a nice clean little assembly, and the alarm hand is on there, and it's going to stay on there, so it's not going anywhere. And then it would be put on the clock. Now, these things are, you'd think they wouldn't come apart in any way, shape, or form, but sadly, that isn't true. So here's everything all put together, and it's a fairly tight little assembly when it's all together, and that the alarm hand pole and the cullet pole, there isn't that much space in between those two. That was kind of on my end, that was a bit of a screw up. And also we're missing the alarm trip wheel on the alarm shaft, but that doesn't matter. Now for serviceability's sake, we just love to come in there with either a pair of screwdrivers or a gear/hand puller. Just get in there and get the jaws or the blades in the alarm hand pole and pop up the cullet and everything else with it. That would be nice and simple. And if we could just do that, which we can on some clocks, but not on others, we wouldn't be making this whole diagram and everything like that. And sadly, I've learned this from experience, so stay tuned. This is where things get more complicated. Now this here is what all the other diagrams have been building up to. So at Westclox, the movement would be put in the inner case, in the inner dust protecting case, and then the dial would be put on top of that. And then the alarm hand, the whole cullet assembly there, it'd be just pushed on, and that would be it. And then the whole clock would be put together and sold. But for us here, doing the whole thing in reverse, if we want to have access to the front of the movement, which we need to because we're going to take the whole thing apart to clean it, so we need access to the front of the movement, this alarm hand cullet assembly has to come off. Well, where in the heck do you grip it? Because of the dial and the inner case being on, we've lost complete access to the alarm shaft and the alarm hand pole there. We can't see that from up here. So what do? Well, all we have access to from this angle is the alarm hand, basically the alarm hand itself. In actuality, viewers, the alarm hand base, that's like really small. That's a very small piece of brass or steel or whatever that is. It only supports the hand being on there. It doesn't support it as in like a pillar or something where it's like rock solid. No, this is easily malleable metal here. You can easily bend this stuff. So if you're in there with a couple of screwdrivers in between the dial and the alarm hand base, you will end up pushing the base up. It'll end up bending up probably, and I think you'll just pop the alarm hand clean off of here. And I've done that twice now without realizing it. Back in 2018, I didn't know how any of this stuff worked, because it had, this whole system of just prying the alarm hand off like all the other hands, this had worked perfectly fine for the longest time. And it was only when I got to the style 5, it was the style 5 baby. I think all the baby bends probably have this. Some are probably just tighter on than others. And tighter on being tighter onto the alarm hand pole there. But anyway, after doing a couple of style 5 baby bends, I realized, oh crap, I've just popped the hand cullet assembly apart, and now you've got a bigger mess on your hands. So you can't really go in from this angle. Maybe if you got a gear puller in and tighten it up really tight, maybe you could really get it in there and pull it off like that. I don't know. I know that the alarm hand pole is like solid steel or something like that. It's like this really hard rock solid steel. So you probably could get a gear puller in there, possibly, if you had one that was small enough. Get it in between the hands and the dial, and make sure that you're gripping the actual the pole itself, not the base. Do not grip the hand cullet or the hand or the base. You will end up completely ripping the hand off. And this is what we were struggling with the Style 6, was, trying to get the stupid hand off without wrecking it, because I don't have any spares, and plus, it's, who wants to replace something like that? Seriously. One detail I failed to notice was that on my parts, my quote-unquote parts Style 6, I had a black alarm hand. Well, some jeweler or some guy put that on there, so obviously it's possible to get them off somehow. But I don't know, I didn't want to risk it here, so I didn't do that. I don't know, more experimentation into this has to be done, but as for now, we're going to play it safe, and I'll show you what I'm going to do. Also, a similar thing is going on with the hour hand, where there's just the hour hand itself, and then there's just the hour pipe. Yeah, that's pressed on. I believe the movement is put in the inner case, and then the dial's put on, and then the hour hand is just really pressed onto the hour pipe. You can see an example of this happening in my Style 5, my 1941 Style 5 Baby Benz series. You can see an example of the hour hand being pressed on there, and then I had to actually glue it back onto the pipe because I couldn't get it back on any other way. So anyway, that's how we ended up doing that. We got the alarm hand off, which is the same as this whole thing here. We got that off just fine. I don't know. As I said, some are tighter than others, or maybe it was the angle I was doing it at. I have no idea. Some more experimentation has to be done with this. Okay, viewers, well, after enough staring at this, we're going to do something very unorthodox. Usually what you do with these clocks is you take this hand off and, you know, it's easy peasy. Well, I don't think we have the luxury of that today. So we're going to unscrew the bell, take our bell off, and put those screws in a cup. And I'm going to try and dismantle the alarm mechanism from the back and not wreck the alarm hand any more than we already have. That whole cullet fiasco. So we're going to take this off. Take our bell off like this. Okay, there we go. So it just comes off like that. Oh, come on. Now it doesn't want to come off. Okay, there we go. I'm kind of have to play with it a little bit. There's our bell. Nothing too fancy happening in there. Okay, I'm not sure what I was doing in 2018, but there's supposed to be screws here. And as you can see, I haven't put them back in. Maybe they were always missing? I don't know. Anyway, that should let us just take this off. Usually there's I know, this is so unorthodox. Usually there's screws here, and you know, you'd have to go around the dial and well, I guess they've left spaces for us, haven't they? Okay, well, anyway, you'd go here, maybe move the card, like, well, you're supposed to take all this off, right? How I do it, take the dial off, but of course, since this is being a nuisance, it's got to stay on. What I would do usually, if there were screws, I'd go around and unscrew these, and then I can just pull this out. And this is an inner case here, what you're looking at here. This is a dust protector. I know, of course, the one series, the guy asks for help. He doesn't get the... He gets the super weird series where Greg has to basically solve the Da Vinci Code to get into the clock. Okay, we're going to try and... there's a rubber grommet there holding these knobs in, and you can see we're getting access to the movement here, second by second. I'm just going to pull it forward. There we go. See, it's just, you know, it's just the rubber grommets there. We'll have to have a look at that a little later. What a bizarre turn of events, eh? I can't figure it out. So here's our movement, okay? Here's the back of the dial. And when was this one made? Let's just have a look at the date, just for the sake of it. October 17th, 1952. Wow, this one's about to... Oh, you see all the old oil and crap in there? Yikes. That is not what you want on a movement. Anyway, this one is only a few... Like, my birthday is on the 10th of October. This is from 17th, not bad. Kind of ironic, actually. Okay, so what we're going to do is take the... Oh, can this get off? Oh my gosh, look at that. Oh yeah, this movement needs a service, 100%. It's just soaked with all this crap on it. Oh, yikes. Okay. What we're going to do is unscrew our alarm mechanism. Now pay attention to the way this goes together. We got our knob. There's our balance wheel there. We got the knob. I'm going to get my... Okay, I've got a bin over here just for all these new clock parts we're having to dismantle. We got our knob to take off, and all you do is screw it backwards. That's why on the dial, you see that arrow there? You can only turn this one way for setting the alarm. right in that click, that's the alarm going off. You can only turn it one way, and if you turn it the other way, it'll unscrew. And that's for serviceability reasons. So that's great. There's our knob. There's a split kind of washer looking thing there. That goes on. I gotta get that off. Come on. Oh my gosh. I think there's 2 washers there. Yeah, there's a split washer and then there's a double D under that. Let me just get my blade here so you can kind of maybe see a bit better. Yeah, there's a split washer. I think it's called a split washer. I don't know. It's got a split in it. So we'll call it that. And there's a double D. And there's the actual tension nut. And I need a pair of pliers here for this. Oh boy, viewers. Okay. Now if I pull this out. Actually, let me just think here for a second. If I take this whole mechanism off, there's a wheel under here. I'm not sure if this is the best way to go because there's wheels and stuff under behind the dial that would have to pop forward, which of course, well, I guess we could get it out that way. Yeah, I guess we could do that. Sorry, viewers. It's crazy. It's a crazy service this time around. This is quite the adventure here. All in the name of not wrecking that little hand there. But hey, if you wreck that, then you have no idea what the heck the alarm is. You're gonna have to bear with me, viewers, as I go along with this crazy little series here. Yeah, we're having adventures today. And so that right there, that's the tension nut. So that big nut right there, that's the tension for the alarm mechanism, more or less. And then under that, there's a washer. And then under that, there's a leaf spring. AKA just a spring, so now I'm turning it by hand here. So this should release the dial and whatnot. And then we can take it inside and not work out it in the garage. So as you can see, there's our tension nut there. Make sure you have the flat side facing up because there's like a beveled side on the opposite. See, the dial's coming off. That's good. And just in case you're totally lost, this is the direct, how should I say, the direct underneath of the alarm hand, if that makes any sense. Okay, and it looks like our call-it theory about the hour hand was correct, so that's always a plus. Anyway, there's the beveled. Whoops, where's the beveled side? Come on. Sorry, I'm just trying to hold this thing in my fingers. Maybe it's the same on both sides. Okay, we'll look at that later. There's one flat side for sure. We know that. Okay, so there's a washer. Pretty sure the washers are identical. They're both double D washers. That's just the shape of them. The camera keeps almost falling off the table. So I'll take that. We get our leaf spring, which hooks into one of the holes there. I'll show you how to put that together later, once we've cleaned everything up. And now we've got nothing there. And there should be a washer in there. I don't know if you can see it. See that one washer there? You can see the threaded arbor. There's a washer there, right there, on the back plate. As you can see, our dial is coming off. Okay. Yeah, this is not how I wanted to do this at all. Okay, now we'll put this aside. We'll have a look at our movement later. And we've got our dial off. So now we've got our dial there. And I'm just going to take that wheel off. That's the alarm setting wheel there. We might not be able to take this hand off as it stands. Let's have a look at this is the area we've been trying to get to the entire time. Okay, viewers, well that whole thing there holds the record for being the most chaotic hand removal I've ever done so far. So, what just happened there? Well, the hour hand was the minute hand was a little bit tight on. There it is over there in the background. A little bit tight on, but not too bad. Just kind of got to get it that the right way. Maybe I'll get a hand remover and, you know, not have to deal with that anymore. Okay. What about not the minute, sorry. This is the minute hand. I'm talking about the minute hand, sorry. Now let's talk about the hour hand. Okay, well, if you look at our baby Ben Style 5 series, the Luminous model. That whole fiasco there with the hour hand, it's the same deal with this clock here. The hour hand is not meant to come off, which can be really annoying for repainting the hour hand or whatever. Well, Westclox expected you to never mess with that. So, you know, they never expected. This is an era in clock history where it's like, okay, you're probably you might get this one serviced, but 9 out of 10 times you're probably gonna throw it away and buy another one, or exile it to the attic, or never even give it a second glance, right? They don't expect you to do any sort of maintenance work with these things whatsoever. Well, they do, but they don't. All right, the service manuals, ranging just roughly after 1957 and whatnot, basically say take the spring barrels off and dip the rest of the movement in a can of gas, and call it a day there. Well, obviously that's not a complete service at all, and that barely cleans it. That might have worked 65 years ago when the oil was still somewhat fresh, but that doesn't really cut it now when these clocks have other issues, potentially. This one doesn't. This one runs fine, but it needs a service, you know, just to prevent other issues from happening to it. Anyway, so they kind of expected you to service this, but not really. But sort of, it's like 5 out of 10. So, I know I said 9 out of 10 earlier, but that's incorrect. And I'm just blowing off this thing here, this blade, hoping that I got no radon on this thing, or radium paint. So anyway, that's the hour hand. As for our alarm hand, as you can see, we can finally see the bottom of it. And let's have a look at what's going on here. So if we pick this up, we see our alarm finger, which is what trips the alarm, okay? Then there's the bottom of the cullet, and I'm just gonna grab it very gently by my thumb here. You can see the bottom of the cullet, I'm pretty sure, which is here. Actually, does that look like it comes off to you? I don't know if that assembly comes apart. I know we bent it up a little bit. We can always fix that later, but I don't know. The comment sections on this one are going to be very interesting. Let's just say that. Yeah, I'm not sure if that assembly comes apart or not. I know as I said, I know we bent it up with a screwdriver. We can flatten that out. Let's try and look from the bottom and see what we can see. There's the finger blocking absolutely everything. Doesn't look like we've got a much better of a view down here. I'm not sure if that comes apart or not. That's a hard one. And once again, referring back to the Baby Ben Style 5 Luminous series that we did, same exact issue. Well, not with this, not with the hour hand, but with the alarm hand. We weren't sure if it came apart or not. Usually this wouldn't be a problem like it is in this series, but you gotta do what you gotta do. So, Greg, how do I go about doing this? Well, if you want to be careful about it, do what I did. And maybe we'll take an alcohol-covered piece of paper towel and just wipe that staff down, just so there's no issues with, you know, old oil getting into anything it shouldn't. Because we want to totally clean this thing up. Now that we've got the dial out of here, we're going to totally dismantle everything and clean it up. So, anyways, viewers, this has been the Call It Adventure, and I've got... I feel like I fried my brain just trying to mentally comprehend some of the stupidity involved with the designs here sometimes. But this isn't 1923 anymore, where Westclox expects you to take your clocks in and they go, oh yeah, we expect you to take your clock here, so we're going to make it super easy to service. No, stuff like this is done to cut costs. That's what it's done. This isn't a bad clock, though. Don't get me wrong. But just sometimes with this stuff, you get stupid little things like that going on with that cullet. And as I said, if that pops off, it may not pop back on like some of the older ones do. So I don't know. I don't know, viewers. I don't know if it comes off right or not. I'm gonna have to ask Wes K and see what he says on this, because I've got no idea. So, long story short, be wary of cullets. Just so you know. Just so you don't make any mistakes that you don't want to make. Well, for the guy who I made this series for, and also for everybody else, I hope you guys aren't too lost as to what the heck just happened there. But yeah, that's the best I can really explain it to you. Just a bit of cheapening up the design, just a little bit. And I'll see, who knows, maybe I could have just been normal and taken the hand off like everyone, like it's, you know, how it would usually be on a lot of these clocks. Maybe it's not, I don't know, but I decided to play it safe and go the way I did. So, nothing was broken. The hand's a little bit bent, but, you know, we can rebend that. And we've got our movement here, and we'll just disassemble it in the next episode, and we'll clean it up. But, yeah, that's all for the next episode. That's enough for this episode. I will see you guys there.